Yo guys, what's up? Nate here from Protoculture and Shadow Chronicles. Welcome back to Sonic Academy once again for another how to use video. Today we got a new plugin from one of my favorite developers. This is from Unfiltered Audio. It's called Basement and it's an awesome bass enhancement plugin. We're going to dive in and check this out. Right, so here we have Basement from Unfiltered Audio. I'm going to be using this in sort of a psytrance scenario. I find this works really well on psytrance bass lines, but pretty much you can use this on any genre, obviously. So what we have here is a bass enhancement plugin, and it's kind of in the vein of stuff like Wave's Max Bass, R Bass, but then also like Subfilter from Plugin Alliance as well. It does a whole bunch of different methods of enhancing the bass and shaping the bottom end of your bass lines or kicks or whatever you want to apply this to. So let's just take a look at the controls quickly. You've got sort of basic plugin management. Along the top here, you've got a number of things for kicks, bass, guitars, general. You can use it for more sound designy stuff as well. Settings section here, you can change the GUI if you'd like. There's some randomization options as well. You can hit this randomize button, which will randomize these settings for the plugin. We've got 5 different modes along the left hand side. We're going to come back to those in just a second. Each of these modes you have a cutoff frequency, which is how you're going to tune the plugin according to what you want to do to your bass. You've got the strength of the algorithm, or the amount of algorithm that you're going to be applying to your signal. There's a soften dial. This is particularly useful in the distortion algorithms. You can just apply a little bit of a low pass filter to the distorted signal to soften it up slightly. The shelving or the shelf kind of acts as a secondary mix for the strength of the plugin. It's a low shelf filter that's set to the same as the cutoff. So you can boost the lows by adding to that. The default is to be set at 0, but if the strength is too much for you, you can actually tune it down with this as well by dropping the volume of the shelving to just keep the bass under control. And then lastly, the clarity dial. This is a cut that around sort of 400 hertz will cut out a lot of the mud and kind of enhance the clarity of the bass, which is really useful. It's something that you do often, cutting out those frequencies around there to clean up your bass sounds. And lastly, you've got a number of options on the right hand side. And these are also super handy to have. There's an anti-rumble option, and this is something I do quite often as well, particularly with these psytrance bass lines. This will cut off sharply at 30 hertz to remove any low rumble, low frequencies that you don't need. You can just enable that and it will cut them off for you. You can solo mid only, you can solo the bass, and you can also mono out the bass, which is super handy to have. Typically you want to keep your bass line mono anyways, so it's nice to be able to just force it into mono directly in the plugin. There's also a soft clipping option, so you can drive it slightly more through the soft clipper internally in the plugin. And then a global bypass that you have as well. And then this lower section here is going to be your sort of visual feedback as to what's happening. It's a spectrograph that will show you what's going on in your bottom end. So let's just take a look at some of the different modes. I'm going to first just play this bypass and then dial in some settings on this kick drum or this bass line that we have. So let's just take a listen. You might need to listen to this quite loudly or with headphones. Some of the differences are quite subtle. And let's bring in the saturation algorithm. We're going to push the cutoff up higher up to kind of tune it to have more saturation around 120 hertz. Let's bring up the strength. So you can feel that energy now really coming through at around 130, 120 hertz around there. So what desaturate does is, according to the cutoff frequency, everything underneath that gets passed through a sort of bass-friendly saturation algorithm, which is quite smooth. You can soften that off with the low-pass filter here. so the distortion is slightly less harsh. And then it adds that back into the signal. So you're getting kind of focused saturation on the bassline, which is really nice in this case. This is very much the same as what max bass does. You kind of just introducing the saturated signal in, and you can kind of focus the energy higher up, which is really good in the case of these sidetrance basslines like this. Additionally, you have the next algorithm which you're going to look at, which is more in line with something like Subfilter from Plugin Alliance. It's a resonant filter, but very resonant. So when you kind of bring this up, it's essentially the same as doing something like this, but bringing up the Q factor. So you actually sort of focus a resonant section in your bass line there. We'll just disable that and take a listen to what this sounds like. We'll turn up the strength again. We'll turn the soften down and leave the shelving where it was before. And let's take a listen now to the resonance as we sweep up across this frequency spectrum. And you can see in the visual feedback here as well. Right, that's it for the resonant frequency, or the resonant algorithm. The octave algorithm, what this is going to do is it will take everything underneath your cutoff filter and pitch it up with a zero latency algorithm above the cutoff 1 octave up. So let's take a listen to what that's going to do. Let's dial our strength up again as we sweep through. So you can hear that sort of bass energy is much, much higher up in this case because it's pitch shifting that up an octave. The synthesize algorithm, what this is going to do is it's going to add a sine wave into the mix as well. This will be the volume of the sine wave, but it also, everything underneath the cutoff will get sent to an envelope shaper. So the sine wave is not being applied constantly, it's only being applied as the bass is playing. And let's take a listen to that. This is quite handy for kick drums if you're trying to bring out a little bit more tonality in a kick to tune it to the track you're working on, for example. In this case, if we wanted to bring out that sine wave around where our bass line is playing, we're in G. In Cubase, we can just double click here and just find the frequency for G1, which will be 98 Hertz. If we set our cutoff here, you can double click on it, set that to 98 Hertz and listen to this as we bring the strength back up. Our sound wave's now in tune with the bass line as well. I would definitely use this more with a kick drum most of the time. It makes more sense to me to use it in that sort of regard. But yeah, you can tune that as well to use that sine wave as part of the bass line as well. And lastly, we've got the overfold algorithm. So this is the overfold algorithm from Dent. It's essentially the same as the saturate mode, but this is a much harsher distortion. It's kind of designed for more, creative sound design kind of stuff. But let's check this one out as well. Again, you can set the target frequency and then the strength of the distortion. Let's dial that in and sweep through. This one we can soften as well. And lastly, we haven't actually checked out the clarity yet. Let's jump back into the saturate now. We'll dial in some settings again. And you can see even without the strength in it all, that's the anti-rumble kicking in now. Let's bring that up. And then let's dial in some of the clarity. You're going to hear that sort of around 400 Hertz clearing out the mud in the bass line, allowing more room for the top end. Let's check out what that sounds like. You can see in the frequency analysis what's what's happening to that area. Yeah, and that pretty much covers the basic workings of Basement. It's super handy, this. Just the fact that it covers a whole lot of different algorithms. Normally, I would have to jump between different plugins to get these different kinds of, or these different methods of controlling your bottom end. But this is really handy. It's all in the same plugin. They're all really nicely done. GUI super clean and very intuitive to use. We're going to lastly just jump into the kick, and we'll just take a quick listen to some different material. Let's just take a listen to this on something else. So this is the saturation on the kick. This is some of the clarity. Clarity is super handy on the kick as well, just gets rid of a lot of that sort of muddiness in the kick and brings out that click a little bit more for you. Let's try out the synthesized algorithm as well. And just for the sake of this demo as well, let's try and see what happens if we bring that synthesized part in. We said G1 was higher up. We're going to go with G0 to tune it to the baseline. That's 49 Hertz. Let's take a listen to a little bit of the sine wave applied at 49 Hertz. It kind of just gives that kick a little bit more tonality. Lastly, let's check out the octave on the kick as well. Cool. So that is Basement from Unfiltered Audio. This is definitely going to be a regular spot in my insert chains, especially on Psytrance tracks, any dance music stuff. I think this is a great plugin for. Obviously not limited to dance music at all, but definitely go check this one out. Super cool plugin, available from Plugin Alliance and Unfiltered Audio. Great, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch you guys soon right here at Sonic Academy. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.